Are you one of those spouses who is not happy because your spouse, who is a ball of energy when they are with their friends, when they are with their siblings, whenever they are with you, they are as cold as a stone? And you're wondering, how is it that this person is also engaging, so interesting, so fun to be with when they are with someone else, but with me, being their wife or their husband, I struggle to get them to have good conversations with me. Of course, everybody wants to have great conversation with the most important person in their life. Now, it is very likely that the responsibility for this situation has to be shared. There may be some part of the responsibility that belongs to them, but you most likely also have to do a few things differently in order to change the situation. And here are the things that you can do differently in order to have the best conversation with the most important person in your life. The first thing I want you to say before I roll out the 5 things is the fact that there's something we call psychological safety. Just like you enter a room and you feel at home because the ambience is nice, the room smells nice, there are a few things that just makes the room engaging and comfortable for you. The same way in a psychological space, there's what we call psychological safety, that if you have not been providing that for your spouse, probably that is why they struggle to be vulnerable with you. That's why they struggle to engage with you to have great conversation. And here are the 5 things that you can do in order to begin to provide the psychological safety that your spouse needs for them to have a great conversation with you. The first one is this: ask him or her, how are you doing? And keep quiet for a response. Usually, because of the see-finish effect that happens in marriage, when couples ask, how are you doing? They barely wait for 2 seconds before they jump in on the conversation themselves. Most times, they are not really interested in your response. They just want to check in and then move on to other things, because we take it for granted that because you are not crying, because you are not screaming, you don't look like anything is wrong with you. We make the assumption, your spouse makes the assumption that everything is fine with you. And many a time, human beings are extremely complex, and many a times your spouse may be struggling, but they wear the usual face, and therefore you don't know what is really going on. And because they feel that if you don't really care about them to that level, why should they be vulnerable with you? So next time when you ask them, how are you doing, keep quiet for a response. In fact, press them to speak to you about how exactly they are doing. They may give you a politically correct answer. Press for more so that you can have an understanding of exactly how they are doing. And when they start speaking, don't interrupt them. That's another thing that disrupts the psychological safety that people need in order to have great vulnerable conversation with you. If you are in the habit of interrupting your spouse, please stop it, especially if you are interested in them being your best friend, because that's actually what you need for you to begin to continue to have great conversations with them. All right. Secondly, let them talk to you about their feelings, their interests, and their problems. Many a times, people are comfortable when it's time to share good news, when it's time to share the mundane things. Many people become quite uncomfortable when conversations move to the vulnerable space of, we're talking about feeling, we're talking about what really interests me, we're talking about the areas where I'm really struggling. What a lot of people do is that, they begin to interject, they are not comfortable in that space, and therefore they sometimes don't allow the person to actually talk to them about their feelings, their interests, and their problem. Many times the person that you feel is very quiet and very cold. If you learn about their interests and you show interest in their interests, you may find a totally different person that you have never interacted with before. Because everybody has things that gets them going. Everybody has things that fires them up, that gets their passion up. And if you move the conversation in that direction, most likely you're going to get their interest and you're going to have a great conversation with them. All right. And then the third one is this: stop mirroring. What is mirroring? Mirroring is simply taking on the emotions of your spouse. When your spouse comes in and they are upset about something, instead of you to listen to them, you also immediately become upset. When your spouse is, maybe they are moody, they are quiet, you also feel that you have to be moody and quiet because you are wondering, why is it moody, why is it quiet? You also take on the same emotions from them. That is what we call mirroring. Sometimes because they are moody, they are quiet, you are even angry, and in response to their quietness, you respond back in anger and therefore you become quiet. That is what is called mirroring. If you are going to be the kind of spouse that will have your spouse as your best friend, somebody you want to have great conversation with, you're going to need to take hold of your own emotion and not be quick to mirror your spouse's emotion. When your spouse is down, what they need is another spouse who is up and strong enough to hold them up and listen to them when they're in that vulnerable space. When your spouse is angry and you also immediately become angry, your spouse feels the need for them to calm their anger just so that you also do not get angry, because your anger then disturbs them and therefore they feel that they are doing something wrong. So instead of them being vulnerable, they don't take on the role of the person who is caring for you. That's not what you want when your spouse is in a vulnerable space. You want to be the soft spot that they can land on when they're not in their best shape. So next time your spouse comes in with a certain kind of mood, maybe they're angry about something, they're upset about something, they're moody and all of that, remain solid with your own emotion and provide a listening ear without necessarily moving into the same space with them. Some people even make it worse. Not only do they mirror, they also mirror even in their conversation. Your spouse comes in and says, for instance, oh, my boss did this to me, I wasn't happy, and this is what my boss did. And somebody say, oh, me too, that is how my boss did the same thing last week, I also experienced this before. Oh, me too. That oh, me too is a killer of vulnerability. Stop it. Next time your spouse is sharing with you, even if you remember something that you experienced that is similar, keep quiet, let them finish, and provide them the care that they need in that space. Other times you will have the opportunity to share about when you also experience the same thing, because once you move the conversation to, oh, me too, I'm hungry, oh, me too, I'm upset, oh, me too, I experienced this, it just simply means that you really don't care about them. You only care about sharing your own thoughts, and that's not how to have your spouse as your best friend, right? Then the fourth one is this: show them that you care. Don't just say it. Many people say, oh, I will be there for you, I love you, I'm your best friend, I'm this, I'm that, and all that. Simple question you need to ask is, what exactly does my spouse needs? Because if you say it and you don't show it, your spouse does not feel it. Even as much as you say it, it feels fake to them, and they feel that if you have not shown that you love me, why should I share why should I be vulnerable with you? Why should I share, the reality of what is going on in my mind with you? That is how you provide psychological safety. If you are in the habit of not showing up when your spouse needs you to show up, you are going to struggle to have them to be vulnerable with you when it's time to have great conversation. You have to show that you love, not just in saying it. When you show that you love them, then they know that they can trust you with their thoughts, and therefore they can be vulnerable with you, and you can have great conversations together. And lastly, discuss any lingering issue between both of you. If there are lingering issues, if there are offenses that have not been dealt with, obviously it's going to stand in the way of your conversation. Let me tell you what happens with offense. When your spouse steps on your toe and they did not say sorry and they move on, of course you count it's just a little thing and all of that, but maybe it bothers you a little bit, but you let it go. Next time you give them a cup of water, they did not say thank you. Ordinarily, if you give them a cup of water and they did not say thank you, they could easily move on, and it's not a small thing. But what offense does is that it calls on all the other offenses that have not been treated, and therefore giving them a cup of water and not saying thank you suddenly becomes a big issue. You may be wondering that, why is it a big issue? I mean, this happens all the time, but a lot of time it is because there are other offenses that have not been dealt with, and therefore they take up this issue of giving you a cup of water without you saying thank you, as if it is much bigger than that, because that singular offense will call on all the other offenses that have not been dealt with, and therefore something that is really simple becomes a big issue. It happens a lot in many marriages, and that is why you must treat any lingering issues, discuss it, have closure, apologize to each other, and come back together. And on top of that, you can have great conversation as friends. I hope this has helped. If you are one of those people who have struggled with this, tell me which of these 5 they are going to be implementing starting this week. I wish you bliss.